I'm a college student in Indianapolis, Indiana. It was around 6:26 p.m. on the 7th of November 2010 when I was standing on the sidewalk of W. Michigan Street that led back to campus apartment housing at IUPUI, my college. We usually have a lot of airplanes and helicopters around here, and at first, I thought it was an airplane until I realized that it was flying way too low, but then I realized that it must have been a helicopter. I couldn't have been more wrong, I realized, as I looked up and saw a circular object flying right up above me, moving straight in the direction I was facing. It was huge, and if a full moon were out, I would have to say that from my perspective, I would have to say that maybe 15 to 17 full moons would be equal to the size of it. I'd like to give a better comparison, but I was in a state of shock. I did spend what felt like a long time gazing at it, although in actuality, only about 2 minutes had passed. The sky was clear, but being in the city, it appears as pitch black because of the city lights. It was either flying really low, or it was extremely huge. I feel stupid for not thinking about getting a picture, but I was in total shock, as I don't really believe in UFOs, or at least didn't until now, and even now I'm still skeptical. I did, however, try my best to draw a picture afterwards, even though I'm not good at drawing. The UFO had red lights on it. If I remember correctly, I'd say about 3 of 4 of them, and I believe that red light was coming from the center as well. Since I was looking up at it, all I could see was what it looked like directly underneath. It looked like the stereotypical UFO, or flying saucer, in most aspects. Besides being a perfect circle, it looked like what a mushroom looks like from underneath, whereas you can see the edges of what a domed top from might be below, and striations leading towards the center. Most of the red lights were towards the exterior, with the exception of the center, where the stem of a mushroom would be. Here was where more red light emitted. 2 things struck me as odd that distinguished this when compared to the stereotypical portrayal. For one thing, the front of the ship had a silver section, which reminded me of a bird shape since the shape had 3 corners. Secondly, I think that there may have been a protrusion at the base of it, which logically made me think that maybe somebody was playing a prank and it was actually some type of blimp because of how it glided forward, but it seemed much too big to logically call it this. There was no logical explanation for what happened. I went back to the apartment building and called my grandpa to tell him what I saw because I felt like I needed to tell someone that wouldn't make fun of me. I made this call at 6:34 p.m. and stepped through the back door of the apartment complex. I was partway into the conversation when I saw the object again flying over the apartment building, even though I thought it had already passed. At this point, a passerby was walking down the sidewalk and saw me looking in shock up at the sky. He then saw the object too and said that it sure is a wide airplane. He didn't see it until it was going off into the distance. I said that was definitely no airplane. This second encounter lasted until 6:37 p.m., so it was 3 minutes long. This second encounter took place on Porto Alegre Street, and again the object continued moving in the same direction until it got past the river, where it ascended up and disappeared into the sky. A girl walking away behind me during the first incident didn't bother looking up because she thought it was a helicopter and was busy texting and was shocked when I told her what I saw. I was kind of angry that she hadn't looked up and I was the only one that saw this the first time, but I extremely glad that someone else saw it the second time to prove that I wasn't the only person that saw it. By the way, the IUPUI campus apartments are near the Ronald McDonald House, which is not far from the hospital. This area is extremely easy to find on Google Maps. However, for some reason it doesn't show Porto Alegre, but the street that the UFO went across to get to the river is White River Parkway E Drive.
Tuesday, April 19, 2011, walking out of the Keystone at the Crossing shopping mall, I got into my car and looked at the time. It was 9:13 p.m. Driving out of the mall parking lot onto 86th Street, I took the first right, north, onto Keystone Avenue, towards the 465 West entrance ramp. Before reaching the 465 ramp, I noticed two very bright lights moving north on Keystone before crossing over the 465 interstate. The lights were brighter than any aircraft I have seen and brighter than the nearby construction lights. The object moved very slow. I followed it up Keystone past the 465 ramp and continued for 2 to 3 blocks. Due to construction and traffic congestion, I noted that I was traveling between 30 and 32 miles per hour. I did not gain or lose distance between the object and my car as we moved north. 2 blocks after the 465 overpasses, the object stopped. The distance between the object and my car became closer as I continued to move. FORWARD stopped for only a few seconds. I did not see the object turn around, but it reversed directions and began retaking the path it had just traveled, but now it was traveling south, towards me. As it approached and eventually passed above me, I noted 2 large and very bright lights. They were separate from each other and looked like headlights on a car. I thought it was some sort of slow-moving aircraft, but as the underside passed by, on my right-hand side, I thought, why does that remind me of the underside of a push lawnmower? I was referring to the shape. It was rectangular. The object was smaller than expected. It was not a massive airliner size. It was traveling low enough to the street to catch my attention, yet logically it had to be high enough to pass above telephone lines, trees, etc. I rolled down my window and did not hear any loud noise as it passed overhead. I continued 1 block north before being able to turn around and head south. I then watched the object pass back over 465, moving south slowly. It moved away from my view.
The 28th of June 2011, 2 a.m. Indianapolis, Indiana. I'm in bed, and hear a loud roar. I look out a window and see a large and all very low aircraft with 4 or 5 lights. They were a single aircraft from what I saw. It was a triangle, 3 lights, with a, possibly 2, strobing slowly in the middle. It was heading west directly over I-465 at 10th Street in Warren Township. This event actually repeated itself 4 or 5 more times starting around 11 p.m. on the 27th until about 2 a.m. on the 28th, heading west every time. The 9th of July 2011, I was at 37th Street on the northwest side of Indianapolis at work. I was doing security at a soccer game. The time was around 6:35 p.m. and it was half time. I just so happened to look up in the sky and noticed an object that looked like a white, gray balloon. I strained my eyes at first. I figured it might have been a plane or helicopter because the airport was about 6 miles south of my location. They started to get lower and lower. The more I observed, it hovered in one spot, then it moved within the blink of an eye east. I was in shock. I couldn't stop staring at it. I couldn't take my eyes off it, and I felt like they knew I was watching. It moved back and forth, then appeared 4 more of the same objects. They all got in formation, like the shape of a boomerang. There was a total of 5 UFOs. They dropped almost down to cloud level, then one by one they vanished straight up back into space with a blink of an eye.
The 9th of June 2011, 9:30 p.m. Indianapolis, Indiana. I was outside on break from work, looking toward the western sky. It was a nice evening with some low cloud cover, just beginning to get dark out. I noticed a dark acorn, best shape I can describe, shaped object in the distance, moving slowly toward the east, toward myself. It had a white light on the bottom that seemed to swivel or rotate. I could not judge the size or altitude, but it was just under the low cloud cover and appeared to be about half the size of the moon from my vantage point and forced perspective. I did not hear any sound. The object moved in a straight path from west to east and seemed to remain at the same altitude. I watched it until it was overhead, approx. 10 minutes, and then I decided to go inside my workplace and find another person to see it. When I went back outside, it was no longer visible.
Indianapolis, Indiana. I was letting my dog out at around 4:20 a.m. on August 5th of 2011. My dog began to bark, looking up and growling. I looked up and first I thought it was a star. I got my dog inside and turned around. The object was now in a different spot in the sky. I went inside and retrieved my binoculars. I looked at the object and it was moving very slowly. I could see it and it had a very bright orange, almost whitish glow to it. I became scared. It had some kind of weird symbols on the underside. It acted like it knew I was there and looked like it was getting closer. I ran inside. At that same time I heard a helicopter coming. I looked again off my porch. The helicopter was close to the object. The object disappeared and the helicopter stayed in the area for around 10 minutes and left. This happens almost every night. Sometimes there is more than one object. There is a power line